Hey, it's NPR's Book of the Day. I'm Andrew Limbong. Some writers play coy about whether or not their novels reveal their true thoughts on a matter. They say stuff like, oh, that's just the character's opinion, not mine, even though it sure does feel like the author's opinion. Other times, an author will outright say, this was written specifically because it reflects what I think. Today's interview is an example of the latter. It's with novelist William Boyd about his spy thriller novel, The Predicament, which is set during the height of the Cold War. And in this interview with NPR's Scott Simon, Boyd talks about how the book presents a theory as to what actually happened when President Kennedy was assassinated, and how it's a theory Boyd is quite convinced by. That's ahead.
This message comes from BetterHelp. As a dad, BetterHelp President Fernando Madera relates to needing flexibility when it comes to scheduling therapy.
I have kids under 18, so time is very limited. That's why at BetterHelp, our therapists try to have sessions, sometimes at night, depending on the therapist, or during the weekend. So I think that's what we need to tell the parents. You're not alone. We can help you out.
If a flexible schedule would help you, visit BetterHelp.com/NPR for 10% off your first month of online therapy.
Let me tell you about Gabriel Dax. He's a Cold War-era travel writer who goes all over the world. That nicely positions him to also be a British secret agent. But he also gets envelopes of cash from the KGB, which MI6 thinks is just fine, keeps his cover. British intelligence sends Gabriel to Guatemala on a friendly errand for the CIA, but the trip has an unforeseen lethal result, and that will pluck a wire inside Gabriel when he's sent to West Berlin to find termites, traitors in spy slang, shortly before the visit of President John F. Kennedy. The Predicament is the second novel in a planned Gabriel Dax trilogy by William Boyd, the honored British novelist, who joins us now from London. Thanks so much for being with us.
Great to be here, Scott. Thank you.
This is the second book in the trilogy, as we said. Is Gabriel by now more of a spy than a travel writer?
Yes, reluctantly so, I think. He's discovered he's actually quite good at the job. He has resources and he has instincts that actually suit his spying life, but he's constantly moaning about how it's taking him away from his real life as a writer. But he's getting in deeper and deeper.
Those cash payments he takes from the KGB with permission, does he declare them on his tax filings with an Inland Revenue?
I suspect not. He's instructed by his mysterious and alluring MI6 handler, Faith Green, to spend the money very obviously. So he's bought a cottage, he's bought a motorbike, he's buying paintings. He's just profiting from this, as you said, KGB cover that he has. He's meant to be a termite, a mole himself, but of course it gets extra complicated.
And let me ask you about his relationship with his handler. And that phrase becomes a little fraught. From British intelligence, Faith Green, they can also be involved, can't they?
Yes, I mean, there's an emotional dimension to their relationship as well as a professional one. And in fact, it's not too much to say that Gabriel is smitten by Faith, and she rather exploits that, though I think she also enjoys the dalliance. But there's always a source of worry that somehow things are not what they seem. And I think Gabriel's life can be described as a persistent erosion of trust, and it makes him more and more anxious.
Gabriel meets with a Guatemalan trade union leader and a former priest known as Padre Tiago. And the Padre expects to get a message from Gabriel from Fidel Castro. Gabriel doesn't have any such message. Is this a lapse or intentional?
No, it's a setup. Gabriel is being used because Padre Tiago, who might win the next presidential election, is in hiding, and the powers that be that don't like him want to know where he is. And in fact, Gabriel is a kind of, he's a lure in a way to find out where Padre Tiago is hiding. He thinks he's going to interview Padre Tiago, but in fact, there's a far more nefarious objective underway, and it has a bad outcome.
The story moves on to West Germany, following that thread from Guatemala. The CIA does seem to have a case against President Kennedy, don't they?
I am a conspiracy theorist when it comes to the assassination of JFK, but it depends what conspiracy you choose. There are various possible explanations, but my theory, which I outline in more detail in the novel, is that there were rogue elements of the CIA, discontented operatives, particularly after the Bay of Pigs fiasco. One forgets that JFK and Bobby Kennedy were not universally popular at the time. And the whole Guatemala issue is to do with regime change and destabilization in Central America, which the CIA were heavily involved with the mafia as well. So I take these elements that are there as potential explanations of what happened and stitch them together to make in my opinion, quite a convincing conspiracy about how JFK was assassinated.
Is that a literary exercise for you or what?
Yes, it's a literary exercise because I'm a realistic novelist, and I want the worlds of my novels, which are fictional, to be as authentic and as plausible as possible. And throughout my fiction, over the years, I've always introduced real events, real historical people, in order to give it that kind of ring of truth, or to make the reader sometimes think, is this true or is this something that Boyd has made up? I like that doubt to be implanted in the reader's mind.
What's it like to spend so much time in the 1960s for you?
The 1960s coincided pretty much with my teenage years, and so I have vivid memories of them and vivid memories of the events that took place. I remember the Cuban Missile Crisis. I remember the assassination of JFK. And so when revisiting them for these novels is a kind of time travel for me. When I talk about the clothes people wore, the drinks they drank, the meals they ate, I'm tapping into my own memories of that period. And it is a long time ago now, but it's still very vivid to me. And it's a perfect place, perfect time to set a spy novel because the Cold War was at its height, and the good guys and the bad guys were, in theory, clearly defined.
I figured out while reading this novel, you and I are the same age within days of each other.
Oh, right.
And we've both grown up with the character of the suave British spy.
Yes.
Why has that lasted so much? Let me tell you my theory, okay?
Okay.
All right. Ian Fleming and some other people needed to make up something following, Britain's darkest days in which they prevailed, but they wanted to be back on top of the world, hence 007.
Yes, but I think you've got to separate 007 from the more serious spy novels. My theory is that one of the few things we British are good at is betraying our country. And we...
Well, the Cambridge Five, you're thinking.
Yeah, the Cambridge Five. And I think the obsession with spying and spy novels is to do with this notion, particularly in World War II and post-war Cold War, the fact that we had so many traitors at the heart of our establishment. And they were well-educated, middle-class, privileged people. I mean, Kim Philby, the super spy, was a Soviet double agent at the heart of MI6 for over 20 years. And I think that's where, the suavity comes in, that it's not some guy with a grudge. These are privileged people who intellectually decide to work for the Russians. And that's an abiding fascination. I don't think anybody has fully explained why these men consistently and for such a long time were traitors.
William Boyd's new novel, The Predicament, and there's another one to come. Thanks so much for being with us.
Great to be here. Thank you very much, Scott.
And just a reminder that signing up for Book of the Day Plus is a great way to support NPR's book coverage and public media. And you'll get to listen to every episode sponsor-free. So please, go find out more at plus.npr.org/Book of the Day.
This message comes from Schwab. Everyone has moments when they could have done better. Same goes for where you invest. Level up and invest smarter with Schwab. Get market insights, education, and human help when you need it.
This message comes from Mint Mobile. Starting at $15 a month, make the switch at mintmobile.com/switch. $45 upfront payment for 3 months. 5 gigabyte plan equivalent to $15 a month. Taxes and fees extra. First 3 months only. See terms.
This message comes from KeyBank. You should never feel like you're leaving business decisions to chance. Try a banking relationship that helps you turn industry insight into industry advantage. Reimagine business as usual. KeyBank opens doors. Key.com/B2B.